one of the biggest problems is that the traditional banks became stricter and stricter every year, to the point where it doesn't really make much sense for the average person. Like, I was asked at some point, let's say you receive money through MoneyGram or Western Union. Some friend of yours sends you money, yeah? Many years ago when we were using these services, I was being asked by the bank, what are you going to use the money for? Which was a ridiculous question. The teller apologized every single time, and they told me, this comes from the head office. This comes from the big boys. You realize that the nature of the question is outside any common sense. Like, what do you expect me to say? And obviously my answers were ridiculous. Like, you can imagine when someone is asking you, what are you going to use 100 euros for? So with neobanks, you don't have as much of an issue as you have with the standard banks. Also, standard banks being so, let's say, highly regulated, I call them narrow-minded, if I may. Because in 2025, if you're still asking questions about cryptocurrencies as a bank and you still don't know what cryptocurrencies are, you're a bit incompetent, let's say. Banks now are desperate because people are taking the money out of the banks, and they invested in anything that could give them more than what the bank is giving them. And right. Banks are frightened, they're terrified, that people are moving the money out. So nowadays, if you want to move, I dare you, call your bank and tell them you want to move 20,000 euros today, tomorrow, whatever. They will freak out. You will have the retention department of the bank, which they call the fraud department, calling you, asking you questions, asking for proof to move your own funds from your own account to maybe your other account.
So where do you see neobanks plugging into all of this?
You have a company, you need a bank account. Because from that bank account, you're going to do your payroll, you're going to pay your services, and you will eventually accept money as a company. Then you need a separate bank account, because in the finance industry, you need segregated bank accounts. You cannot have access to the client's funds for C2B, for clients depositing money. A neobank facilitates all this.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It will help the channel, which I hope you love so much. Here we are as another episode of Financial Frontiers. With me today is a guest from the industry, strong on marketing, strong on branding, let's call it. Your surname, I'm going to try and pronounce it here. Let's see if I butcher it or not. So it's Andrew Mreana.
Correct.
Got it.
We both struggle when we pronounce my surname, so that's why I go as Andrew everywhere.
Andrew. Good. So Andrew, a familiar face in the industry. I think many people who will see this podcast will know who you are and most probably have spoken to you. Let's jump right in over here. Give us a bit of background about who Andrew is, what your experience is professionally, where you currently are, and let's hope to give some valuable insight here to our clients, to our audience rather, not clients.
Let's jump straight into it, as you said. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been quite some time since I've done an interview. Usually, I'm on the other side of the table asking the questions, so today is going to be not a first, but close to a first one for me. So, my name is Andrew. I'm a finance professional with 14 years of experience in retail forex. And in the last 4 years, I started working more B2B, more into the technological environment. I started in retail forex end of 2011. I had a dream of working on the mighty Canary Wharf or the Wall Street. So Canary Wharf was closer at the time. I spent a couple of years in the UK working for a couple of retail brokerages. And since I came back to Cyprus, I focused mostly on B2B and technology side. So I'm well versed in sales, marketing, and business development.
Right. And you want to share some of the companies that you worked at? Or is there some kind of a confidentiality here?
It's not, because my profile is public and my CV is public. However, some of the companies are not on the market anymore. It's been, I mean, in 10 years, a lot of things change from the regulatory point of view. Some companies decided to just hand over their licenses and just continue with a different business or change jurisdiction. I've started, I can say, I've started as a trainee actually in the forex industry. My job was to listen, understand, and make coffees when I started. Slowly, I was allowed to get on the phones. They understood. I'm quite good on the phones. You know, if you believe in the product that you're selling, you're good. You can sell it because you believe in it, you trust it, it's transparent, you understand it, so you can sell it further. Yeah, so this was it. I started there. Slowly, I moved up the ladder in more managerial positions, like training sales teams, working on the harder side of the business, let's say, not just the onboarding. You also have to retain the client. You also have to nurture the client. You have to do a lot of stuff. And slowly, I worked my way up the ladder up to the point where I owned a trading academy. That was InstructFX when I started in 2020. Then I moved on to Financial News, which became a news channel, a YouTube channel and news channel in the industry. And then slowly, and this is my fault, my bad. I parked it, I put it on the shelf for some time.
What is the name of that? Financial?
Financial News, yeah, on YouTube. It's my YouTube channel. I've invested a lot of heart in it, a lot of soul, a lot of effort. But unfortunately, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. So I decided to park the project and then dedicate myself to technology companies in the industry that have strong potential, and they have the funds and all the backup they need to perform.
Well, from my perspective and just hearing what you're saying here, the conclusion for Financials is whatever you want it to be. So and I think that you used the term parked it, and that's the right term, because if you say it ended as a project or a failed project, then, I mean, there's different ways to look at that. You can say, I learned things, whatever, but then that project didn't continue, or you parked it because right place, right time, then later you pick it up and then it might be a success story. So there's something that you mentioned over here in your history, which I think is a good point to bring up, and that is what it means to be a good salesperson, right? And so the term salesman has, in some contexts, has been given a bad rap, like, snake oil salesman, where
used car salesman.
Used car salesmen that sell things. So I'd like to hear your perspective there, but build context on as I get to my, let's call it my question. So when it comes to sales, right? The definition of the snake oil salesman is you don't really believe in the product, you don't care for the product, all you're after is the money to the person you're trying to sell. And there's a skill in that, right? In talking a whole bunch of crap and managing to convince someone else on something that you don't really care of. And that is not something that, I mean, for somebody who's looking out to be a good sale, because sales is something, every business needs good sales, every business. You need marketing, you need good sales. And the definition of sales, I think, a good salesman, in my opinion, is, yes, you need to know the product very well, but then you also need to know how that, and you need that foundation, because you need to know how that product or service that you have can value the person you're speaking to on the other side. You need to get to the other side first. And with your knowledge, explain to that person how this product or service works for them. And a good salesman will see that if it's not a good fit, will not even try to sell.
Correct.
So I'd like to, because I built that context, and I'm assuming, and I'm pretty sure that we're on an agreement here because of the way you termed it, right? The way you explained your sales. I knew my products and I believed in my products, or whatever it was that you said verbatim. I don't remember, but that's what you said. So let me hear give the audience some sales advice.
Right. So when it comes to sales, we definitely need sales, regardless of the product we're selling. If we're running a business that's focused on either retail or B2B, you need to sell your product. How are you going to do it? Using humans. Yeah, AI is still in the early days with us. Probably in 20 years from now, AI is going to sell it for us. And I pray to God for that day to come, because the pressure that the sales department goes through, or any salesman that cares about his job, is tremendous. So you need salespeople. Now, you have two types of salespeople, and you describe them very well. The salesperson that doesn't care about anything. All he cares about is selling the product, making money for the company. Or the other type of salesperson that believes in the product, understands the product, sells the product based on the client needs. If the business you're approaching does not need your product for whatever reason, it would be ridiculous to try and push it to them. You can only push a product so much. You can explain the benefits, you can explain the advantages, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the decision maker if they need your product or not.
Right. You mentioned something over there that you hope and pray for the day when AI will replace salesmen because of the stress that they're going through. But then what will salesmen do afterwards?
Human factor is needed. So I had these similar chats with AI specialists, with people that invented chatbots and bots that are supposed to take our jobs. Everyone explained to me that you do need the human interaction at some point. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have two salespeople. Let's say with one of them, you had a coffee or a cup of tea before. Let's say they sell the same product to you. Which one is more likely to close you? The guy you had a coffee with and you have a good contact with, or the guy you never saw in your life that's just pitching you the product?
Yeah, that makes sense. So the human element, when you build a relationship, I guess, before, without the, let's call it, the intent to sell, it does help. All right, so let's go back now. Your origins, what did you study? Did you mention anything about your studies, or you didn't study, you didn't do any studies, you didn't go to university?
I didn't mention it. I'm not the guy with 20 qualifications and 20 universities. I'm a normal guy, which finished high school, started a university, didn't graduate the university because I was more focused on getting a job abroad and working abroad and making a future for myself than spending years and years and thousands of euros on graduating the university. But I'm lucky enough to get trained and qualified at the workplace. So every workplace I've been in sent me to either a course, or they did the course at the company. So I feel that I gain way more education doing it than going to 5 unis, graduating 5 unis and having zero experience in the workplace. I started working at 14, so
I agree, and I'm also proof of that. I'm the same. I went to university, which I didn't finish, but got into business, and the practical always trumps the theory, always. Because the real life is very different to, what's on paper. And even if the theory is this, describes the textbooks or whatever it is that you're learning, describes it perfectly, the perception, so how somebody who does not have the experience and how they read it and how they understand it, they cannot link it to any real life experience. So it's going to be off. It's going to be off. Yeah, the real experience comes in, the actual reality is, when you get out into the marketplace and see what it is really like.
Correct. It's much easier, for example, to get in the industry for a couple of years. Like when I started in the industry 14 years ago, the industry was a bit more permissive. You didn't need the SciSec Advanced certificate. You didn't need any certificate, basically. You had a job to do. You couldn't give investment advice. Your job was to onboard the clients. Basically, describe the benefits of the company, describe the benefits of whatever they were doing, trading, forex, options, whatever they were doing back then, And if they see it fit for purpose, then you help them with the onboarding process. Later on, when I started studying, when I went to get my SciSec exam, then with that SciSec exam, you're allowed to give a bit of more, from the industry. You can give a bit of investment advice if the company allows you to, if you have the qualifications. So it's much easier to get qualified at the workplace or get a 6 months course or 3 months course, which tells you exactly what it is, what to focus on, than studying for 4 years, economics, for example, yeah? And then realizing you have no clue of what's happening in the real life.
I agree with that. And let's just be clear, right? We're not saying over here that you don't need to sit and study a topic or any subject matter at all if you don't go to the university. The difference is exactly as you stated it. As you progress in your professional career, the time will come, the requirement will come when you need to sit down and study a certain thing to progress yourself. But at least it's, you benchmarking it off of, you plotting it off on what your practical progress in your professional career. This is very different. Even though, I'll speak about myself. So didn't go to university, but I've done loads of courses and things, and which has come as a need along the way. That makes sense. And each person's different, right? There are people who are really solid academically, and there's also professions where you have to, you can't go be a doctor.
Yeah, brain surgeon.
Yeah, brain surgeon, for example. We were having this conversation. I was actually, coincidentally, was having this discussion today with a fellow gym member. And I was surprised that he hadn't heard of ChatGPT. It blew my mind. I told him, how is it possible that you don't know ChatGPT? It's like you're telling me you don't know what Google is. It blew my mind. Anyway, so I was really excited to show him this technology because I wanted to see his face. Like, look what's happening, with the capabilities. And this conversation came around where he came and he asked me for my advice. He goes, what do you think my sons should study? And so I told him mathematics and programming, because it's at least AI related. And then, I went on to tell him, most of the time, whatever someone finishes studying, there are exceptions like doctors, whatever.
Yeah, of course.
People don't follow their profession. All a university is, a certificate, a degree is proof that you're able to show up in a place, work, and deliver the expectation, the results. Your brain is, you're able to process information and understand it and deliver and answer questions. That's it. And okay, there are exceptions that go full, like they're accountant or whatever, and they follow the profession. They go down that whole path.
No, but in our case, like, what good would have a university that's non-related to the industry? Let's say, physics or, something. What good would that have done to me in my career?
Yeah.
If it would have been economics. I did study marketing. So I went to uni for 2.5 years, let's say, studying marketing. But unless it's something related to my domain, just to say I have a university degree that I will never use, I never remember anything that I've learned there, it's just pointless just to say that you have a university degree.
Right. Okay, so then you moved on. So your professional career straight into the UK?
No. I know where you want to go with this. Yeah, I went to the aviation high school, okay? I was supposed to be a plane pilot. That was my dream. That is still my dream. Okay, now I just turned 40, so being a commercial pilot is out of the question now.
How come?
You need at least 5 years of gathering hours. You need to gather 1,500 flight hours.
Okay.
And if you divide that to how many hours you can do a day, like no more than 2, let's say, it's gonna take to that. Then big airliners are looking for people that can work for them minimum 20 years, 25 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. The retirement age in aviation is 65. So I've got 25 years left, let's say, assuming everything goes well. I'm going to need 3-4 years to get my flight hours. Then I'm going to start chasing for a job, which God knows where it's going to take me. It might take me to Africa. It might take me to Asia. Yeah, because European companies will not hire a beginner in their view. Yeah, so being a commercial pilot is off the table right now. So I went to the aviation high school. That was the dream. Unfortunately, at that point, my grandfather, which was a teacher in the academy, passed away. So at that point, with the challenges we had in early 2000s in Romania, without having support in the academy, a job would have been like the odds would have been slim to none. So what did I do next? I went to the first available place, which was the police. Yes. In case you didn't know, but you knew it, and that's why you poked me with the question. Yes, I worked in the police force for about 3 years in Romania, and then I decided that it's enough. I've done it. It's okay. Let's move on. Then I left Romania, came to Cyprus, started my journey in the financial markets. It was a bumpy start, to be honest, because I was coming from a completely different environment. Like I was in, police environment, security, close protection, and all of a sudden, I woke up myself renting cars on the airport. I worked for a car rental company. And then I knew about stocks. I knew how it works. And forex became a thing. It was very new back then. So yeah, I looked into it. I jumped into it. The industry needed a lot of people with the skills on the phones back then because the demand was through the roof. So I was lucky enough to get a trainee job in forex. After my first couple of short-term experience in forex, when I started, it was very short-term. It was a few months. I still couldn't wrap my head around it properly. I had the dream to go to either Wall Street or Canary Wharf. So I ended up in Canary Wharf. I went to UK looking for a job in forex. I managed to find a couple of jobs in forex, and I've realized it's the exact same thing. The only difference between Cyprus and UK back then was that in UK you were paying way more tax. So yeah, after a couple of years in the UK, I saw how things are. I decided, okay, now I can say I'm becoming a professional slowly, so I can go back to Cyprus. And since then, I came back to Cyprus and never stopped.
Well, what made you come to Cyprus in the first place?
Right, another tricky question. When I left the police force, I was qualified in close protection, basically. I was qualified to be a security officer. And a friend of mine back then said, right, I just came back from Cyprus. It's a very nice island. I swear to God, I didn't know where Cyprus was. I thought that was a Greek island somewhere, like probably most of the people. And the guy said, right, I'm working security for a company in Cyprus. They pay really well. There's not a lot of stress. The island is amazing. People are amazing. You have to come check it out. So that was it. I came to Cyprus. I was a bouncer basically for a short term. And yeah, this was it. I decided I'm in love with this place.
Nice.
Yeah.
When you were talking about your the potential of you getting into aviation from now, and that you only have 25 years, here's another one. Do you think planes will become autonomous? Because in your job, I don't know. Are pilots destined to not be needed? There's always going to be a human factor, but I think vehicles are autonomous, and I might be missing some things, but if you had to ask me to guess, I think it's a lot easier to make a plane autonomous than it is to make a vehicle autonomous.
It is, and there are like all the commercial flights you see
it's
nowadays.
Automatic on the landing, but not on the takeoff. Or
everything can be done automatically. Like everything is done automatically. Like the pilot is there just in case something goes wrong. Now, regarding your question, I'm going to reply with another question. How many people do you know that would go in a long-haul flight knowing there is no human interaction on board and anything could happen anytime?
Okay, I'll answer. In today's day and age, I think there will be many people who'd be skeptical. But the technology needs to prove itself. I believe that the technology will be able to handle far better than any human.
True.
It does give me a sense of comfort if I if I had to know that at least there's a human available on this flight because we're in this tube in the middle of the sky. And if this AI goes haywire on me, what happens?
Exactly. So that's the answer to the question. Yeah, probably if planes will become autonomous, but there will always be one person. Yeah, how I see it in 15, 20 years from now, maybe, you're not going to have a flight crew of 2 pilots. You're going to have one that will monitor everything that goes on. Same will apply with road transportation. Yeah, we're talking about trucks. Tesla, yeah, we all know it. They released a model, but you still need a human being inside, which can read, which can do whatever humans do, but it's still there in case anything goes wrong.
But then let's fast forward 100 years, 200 years. Do you think the profession or the humans who know how to drive, for that matter, start decreasing? Because, today, if we think of autonomous vehicles, when you get into the car, the chances are the person that's behind the wheel knows how to drive. Okay. 100 years from now... Fingers crossed. 100 years from now, as the new generations come up, who maybe are not even born yet, but autonomous vehicles have become mainstream, there's no need for them to ever learn how to drive. And I think there's a big chance that many individuals getting into vehicles will not even know how to drive and don't even care to learn because they just trust the technology so much. And then I think maybe the same thing happens with airplanes. So I think it's just, it's a time. We're shifting from the world as we know it today to what could happen later. And, all of these things, it's an interesting
On the same topic, what you said about driving, I think in 100 years from now, we're going to have highways. Somehow they will force the cars to stay on that route. Yeah, highways in the sky, basically. This reminds me of a movie with Bruce Willis. I think it was called The Fifth Element.
Yes.
Yeah, with the red hair girl. Yeah, when they jumped out the window and they landed on a car, basically. Right, I see it something like this. And at that point, it will be much safer than what we have on the roads today. Because those cars will know exactly how to stop, how to avoid accidents. They will know, or they will not care if the driver is drunk, for example. Well, hopefully in 100 years from now, people will be a bit more educated. We're not going to get drunk anymore. Yeah, we're going to have different ways of having fun. But yeah, we're evolving. Evolution is good as long as it's understood properly. It's not taken advantage of. It's good. And probably in 100 years, we're going to have highways, but above ground.
And on different levels. And then, Elon Musk has put this beautifully. He says we have the problem with traffic, right? We have a 2D solution to a 3D infrastructure. That's why there's traffic. So there's, the roads are just one road, two, 3 lanes. That's it. But buildings, and where people need to go, are multi-level. They go up and even into the ground. And the solution to that is, for congestion, is you got to have multiple levels.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk is going down into the ground, the boring company. So he's creating tunnels instead of going, I guess, up, which is is it more difficult? I don't know. But we're getting into science here. So okay, so back to Cyprus. And where are you now, Andrew? What is the name of the company you're at now?
Now I represent Xoala, which is a neobank. I like to call it the future of finance. It's basically a payment institution, a financial institution, let's call it, that facilitates payments, provides bank accounts, does white label card issuing, and basically covers all the verticals that a company might need. From the standard bank account or multi-currency bank account to card issuing, e-commerce, WooCommerce, and hopefully one day we're going to do crypto payments as well.
Okay. Can you give a bit of feedback here, because I hear a lot of terms flying around, and we talk about the traditional banks and then neobanks. Obviously, like Revolut, for example, is considered a neobank.
It's a neobank, yeah, because they don't have physical offices with open doors for public, and they don't give loans. Like, this is the massive difference between neobanks and online banks versus standard banks. The standard bank has the ability to give loans to people.
So it's like an EMI license.
Correct, yes. Neobanks usually have EMI licenses, and they have the rights to process payments on behalf of the client.
Okay, and if we look at traditional banks who have the ability to give out loans, when you hear the term neobank, automatically, at least my mind goes into, it's a neobank because they're more digital and they don't have offices or whatever it is. But then if you look at the traditional banks, they are also moving into this digital world with, their apps and whatever it is. And the fact that they've still got local stores, why would we not regard them as a neobank with the added benefit of getting loans from them as well?
Hopefully one day neobanks will be able to provide loans and more stuff that the standard banks are providing. A difference, let's say, with the standard banks is not just the loans. For example, the interest rate. Yeah, that's given by a standard bank. Yeah, it comes from the central bank. They get the interest rate from the central bank. Yeah, and then the interest rate they give to retail is different. Yeah, so the interest rate that comes from the central bank is basically the interest rate at which the bank pays back its loans to the central bank. Right. Then it adds a markup, of course, gives access to money to retail customers, and it makes money on that tiny markup, which we know as interest, basically.
Okay, so just a few questions are coming up here for me now. You spoke about interest, and I can look at my experience, and from a normal bank, a traditional bank, let's call it, there's interest, obviously, that they're earning from the money that they've loaned out. And that's their monetize. They're reselling money.
Yeah,
pretty much. A neobank, which is not allowed to offer loans, the service is different. So they're facilitating, let's call it, transactions, transfers from one to the other. But there are a few questions here. So if the loans are not their monetization model, neobanks are able to give interest on my money higher than what a traditional bank can.
Correct.
My first confusion, let's call it. How is that possible, number one? And then secondly, how is the neobank making money if I choose, just because the transfers are almost zero, the fees are almost zero? I pay more in transfers on a traditional bank than I do with a neobank.
Correct.
Okay. Where's the money coming from? How does all of that work?
Neobanks also started paying interest on the money you, as a client of the neobank, are holding with them.
Okay.
Because they are facilitating a payment, they are providing you a bank account, but from there on, you can move the funds from the bank account to wherever you want it, to a standard bank or, another bank that you're using. To avoid this, neobanks started paying interest. And this takes me to your second question. And third, how can they pay a higher interest than the standard bank?
Yes.
First of all, they don't have physical offices. Physical offices burn a lot of money. And if we look on the street, we see even the standard banks started shutting down offices here and there because they realize it's not feasible anymore.
Because not only the physical office and the rent and the aircon, the maintenance, whatever that comes with it, it's also the employees in this. Of course. You got to pay your employees. You got to pay the social insurance. You got to pay all those taxes. So that comes out from the company.
So only by not having offices on every corner, you save a lot of money as a company. And you can redirect that to benefit your clients, to offer them a bit more interest than they would get from a standard bank, for example.
Okay.
Now, where's the money coming from?
Yes.
Right. A lot of it is private funding. Yeah. So when they start, they buy the licenses, but it's a group of individuals that have, a lot of money, basically. Now, when you facilitate transactions, you also have a tiny, tiny cost. Yeah. For example, when you facilitate card payments, you're using Visa and MasterCard at the end of the day. So you have the Intercharge Plus Plus, IC Plus Plus it's called, which is a standard fee that Visa is charging per transaction.
How much is that?
It depends, 1.2, 1.4, it depends. Somewhere there.
So JCC, for example, and I think other payment gateways, they charge 2.9. So is that a markup on top of what Visa?
That is the standard. So that's the intercharge. Yeah, Visa and MasterCard. Mm-hmm. Then you have your plus plus, meaning a tiny, tiny markup, let's say 20 cents per transaction or 10 cents per transaction. Mm-hmm. And then you have your, let's call it breathing space. Okay. Just like in forex trading, the spread between buy and sell. Right. You have your margin there. Again, we're talking about cents. We're not talking about dollars or, hundreds of dollars. Right. And from there on, it's volume. Yeah, the more hundreds of thousands of people use your service, the more companies, the more volume they run through your gateways, let's say, you accumulate the fees. But we're talking about very, very small fees, like 10, 20, 30 cents per transaction. Of course, is based on the risk of the company, is based on the jurisdiction of the company. That's why you have low risk and mid risk and high risk. Obviously, high risk always pays more.
Right. So the neobank has got obviously a small, modest fee.
Yeah.
When the money moves.
Yeah.
Then there's also the subscription-based, at least with Revolut. So
a lot of them have a subscription-based. Yes,
subscription-based and some perks that come with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess the model works because the overhead that traditional banks have, they just don't have it.
No, and one of the biggest problems is that the traditional banks became stricter and stricter every year, to the point where it doesn't really make much sense for the average person. Like I was asked at some point, let's say you receive money through MoneyGram or Western Union. Some friend of yours sends you money, yeah? Many years ago when we were using these services, I was being asked by the bank, what are you going to use the money for? Which was a ridiculous question. The teller apologized every single time. And they told me, this comes from the head office. This comes from the big boys. But you realize that the nature of the question is outside any common sense. What do you expect me to say? And obviously my answers were ridiculous. Like you can imagine when someone is asking you, what are you going to use 100 euros for? You know exactly what I'm going to use it for. Write that down. I cannot write that down. So with neobanks, you don't have as much of an issue as you have with the standard banks. Also, standard banks being so, let's say, highly regulated, I call them narrow-minded, if I may. Because in 2025, if you're still asking questions about cryptocurrencies as a bank and you still don't know what cryptocurrencies are, you're, a bit incompetent, let's say, if you work in a bank and you don't know what it is. So whatever the bank turns down, any business that gets turned down by the bank needs a bank account to operate. As a business, if you cannot move money, you don't have a business.
Of course.
Yeah, and people go to neobanks. Yes, the onboarding process is faster, let's say. The compliance is almost the same because, like it or not, EMIs, neobanks, standard banks, they all abide by, a big book of good practice. But people that do the verification, people that try to onboard those companies are a bit more prepared, let's say, professional-wise. They're a bit more open. They understand better if a business is super high risk or not. And I'll give you the best example. Now, in Cyprus, at least, a lot of people know what I'm doing. Yeah, I had a YouTube channel. I was invited to present events, forex expos, crypto expos, and those people had to pay me. If you pay me under the table, it's tax evasion. So I opened a marketing company and I went to the banks in Cyprus, telling them out front what I'm doing. I couldn't open a bank account.
What was the problem? Why
because I work with forex companies. That was their biggest problem. But I told them, you realize it's not illegal to have a forex company, therefore SISEC licensing. Yes. You realize I'm a marketing company. I serve them in terms of marketing. They have to pay me. Yeah, I know, but it's high risk.
It's strange. Because, so look, I mean, I didn't have such a problem for DGM. I'm pretty sure I told him that, the line of business. So, I mean, obviously, we're IT consulting and whatever. When I opened the bank accounts initially, there weren't much questions. And then, as the transactions start increasing, then obviously they ask, what is it that you do? Whatever, show us proof of that. I sent them some invoices. And that was it. For me, to be honest, I mean, for me, I didn't have a big kickback, let's go, a big, objection or, issue with my business, which is in the same industry.
Very likely technology companies are not seen as high risk as marketing companies. Marketing companies are seen as a high risk now in the industry. Even construction companies, even I don't know what company is not seen as high risk nowadays by the banking system.
And, this is what creates too much rigidity, right? If you're going to keep adding regulation, and because at the end of the day, the banks are also scared to lose their license or to get some form
to lose
of
their clients. First of all, banks now are desperate because people are taking the money out of the banks, and they invested in anything that could give them more than what the bank is giving them. And banks are frightened. They're terrified, that people are moving the money out. So nowadays, if you want to move, I dare you, call your bank and tell them you want to move 20,000 euros today, tomorrow, whatever. They will freak out. You will have the retention department of the bank, which they call the fraud department, calling you, asking you questions, asking for proof to move your own funds from your own account to maybe your other account.
So let's go to neobanks then. How long is Xoala?
Yes, Xoala.
Xoala. How long has Xoala been around?
So Xoala started about 1.5 years ago. It was focused for about a year in solidifying all the technology behind it and making sure everything works. Doing all the partnerships that need to be done worldwide with correspondent banks, for example. And now we've launched. We haven't launched officially with an event like everyone is expecting. We will probably do that very soon. So we've been on the market for a bit less than 2 years.
Okay.
But this is the year where we start growth.
Okay. And what you're able to do is pretty much just sit your money in. Is there crypto available on there or no?
No, for now, no.
Not.
That's the most complicated thing to do is start accepting or facilitating crypto payments. It's still work in progress. We still need to find the right legislation so everyone is okay with it. Yeah, because working with so many correspondent banks, their reaction when they hear the term crypto. So we need to find the right legislation.
So where's Xoala? Xoala. Where is it regulated? Here in Cyprus?
No. We have about 7 worldwide licenses. The first EMI license we have is in Sweden. Then we have UK, European Union. We have a passport in over 15 European countries. Then you have US, Canada, UAE, of course, New Zealand, but there's more coming. So we're talking about 7 existing licenses, but we're going to add more as time goes by.
So a lot of investment just to get the framework, the regulation in place.
If you want to go big, you have to do it, because you can be just a payments aggregator, or you can be just a PSP that your only job is to facilitate payments on the client's website. But Xoala is way more than this. Yeah, Xoala is the neobank. Xoala is hopefully one day will become the bank. Yeah, where people come to and they get premium rates, premium service without any headache, or with a less headache than in the other places.
Okay, and so the service that Xoala will offer is money transfers, Visa, MasterCard?
Yeah, so we start with the bank account. Yeah, you can get the standard bank account that any company needs to survive.
So
an
IBAN account number.
Yeah. Multi-currency IBAN. So basically you have one account number where you can receive 6, 7, 10, 15 currencies without the need of changing the account. Mm-hmm. Then you can do your e-commerce, WooCommerce, meaning accepting payments on the website. Okay. Yeah, using the payment gateway, basically. That's the acquiring service. We do white label card issuing. So, for example, let's say you're a forex company or a shipping company with 1,000 employees worldwide. You can order 1,000 white label cards. Yeah. Distribute them. And then when you do your payroll from one app in multiple currencies. You don't pay conversion fees. And you pay all your employees worldwide. And you save on conversion fees. This is a very strong point.
And transfer fees.
Absolutely. And then your employee can go to any ATM that accepts Visa, MasterCard, use it, and that's it.
But then they will get charged for that. 3%, whatever it is.
It depends. It depends on the currency, on the ATM, on...
And did you facilitate SEPA and SWIFT payments?
I can say yes.
Okay. So, I mean, if say somebody in Europe who's got an account with Xoala, does a separate transfers, minimal fees from their Xoala IBAN to, not UK.
It could be quite zero. It depends very much on the country that they're going to be sending money to, or the person they're going to be sending money to. But the whole point is to have zero or as close to zero conversion fees and not throw money out the window.
Okay, and because you mentioned WooCommerce, so you're obviously targeting businesses mainly?
Yes. For now, it's just B2B. Once this sector of the business solidifies and let's say settles for a bit, then we will open B2C, just like the one you mentioned earlier on, which I don't want to advertise, although I'm using them on a daily basis and probably everyone else is.
That's an open conversation over here. We can say whatever we want. There's no promotion over here. There's no affiliation. It's all good for the moment.
Yes, for the moment.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about other parts of this industry that you might have been involved with, and I know you were involved in, or you were sales in for C-Trader.
I was their head of growth. Yeah,
head of growth.
I worked for C-Trader,
which is, I guess, a competitor to MetaQuotes. There aren't many, or at least not. There must be many trading platforms, but I mean, in our industry.
We have about 5 or 6 very popular ones that everyone knows right now. C-Trader was one of them. Yeah, it's second or third, basically below MetaQuotes.
Who's second or third? So it's MetaQuotes, C-Trader.
So you have MetaQuotes, C-Trader. You have Dev Experts. They were the X-Trade. You have Match Trader. You have Leverate. You have quite a few.
Right. Okay.
Trade Locker.
Yep.
A lot of them.
Trade Locker is a new one. Have I had someone from Trade Locker here? No, I haven't. I was on a panel with Luca, I think, Lucas, from Trade Locker, yeah. Interesting. Okay. How about the trading platform world? Do you see, so obviously different sections within the industry? right? You've got the trading platforms, and now you're in neobanks.
And you have the forex companies. So none of them could live without the other. It's an ecosystem that needs to be compact somehow.
Yes. Let's talk about that, actually.
Cool.
I think that's a different conversation that I've not had here. So so you got the forex companies who facilitate trading, CFD businesses. They facilitate trading on different stocks and whatever it is. Some offer direct market access. Okay. Then you've got obviously the trading platforms who offer the platforms that these
the technology.
Need.
You have the liquidity providers which give you the assets.
Right.
To add it on the trading platform.
Right. And then you obviously you're neobanks, which didn't exist before, but I guess maybe in different forms. So the payment gateways.
Revolut was one of the first ones.
Yes.
Or the first one, basically, that came out.
I guess Revolut is a really big industry, not just within our small little industry, with the retail effect. Small, I mean, it's a big industry, but I mean, it's very niche. The Revolut, if you had to go and tell them about, brokerages in the world, it's not their main focus, I think. They're massive with the, B2C side.
Yeah.
So where do you see neobanks plugging into all of this?
Well, you need to be able to have a bank account as a company. It all comes down to basics, basically, like very basic. You have a company, you need a bank account. Because from that bank account, you're going to do your payroll. Yeah, you're going to pay your services. Yeah, and you will eventually accept money as a company. Then you need a separate bank account. Yeah, because in the finance industry, you need segregated bank accounts. You cannot have access to the client's funds. So you need a second bank account for C2B, for clients depositing money. Xoala or a neobank facilitates all this. If you have a business and you have technology and you have the phone lines and you have the marketing and the sales, how are you going to take money? Nothing can live without the ability of accepting payments or the technology. Yeah, you can have a forex company, you can accept payments, but if you don't have a trading platform, what's the point of accepting payments? So one cannot live without the other. And that's why probably this ecosystem is strong and it's going to be strong for the years to come, because they heavily rely on one another to live as a company, as a business.
Yeah, I mean, and we're also talking about different needs for the average person out there. Xoala is currently focused on the B2B.
B2B, but we will open...
when you get to the B2C, right, and you think of all these different solutions that exist, we're heading towards, I think, almost like a super app in a sense, where you've got... But who fills that? Who creates that gel, right? Because these are different services. So, I mean, let me talk about the end result. I'm just thinking out loud, right? I'm just thinking out loud about all of this. Let's talk about the end result. And the end result is, and Revolut already does this, but let's talk about how maybe our industry, the people and the businesses that we speak to on a daily basis, you and me, right? And the events that we go to and, just our common clients. What Revolut is doing. So how do we create this environment where from the same application, you're able to pay for your groceries, you get your salary, you're able to, travel, do your exchange, and then you're also able to transfer to your trading account. You're able to see your trading activity. You're able to invest in different stocks. You're able to do this. Who does that? So is it, who heads that? Is it another service? Is it Xoala on its own? But you need the XNESs or the XMs of the world. then you need the integration in the trading platform as well. So your meta quotes, you need your meta quotes integrated into this somehow. And at the end of the day, it's got to be seamless for the consumer, the end user. Who are they signing up with? Are they signing up? So I don't think it's with Xoala, but if you're going to be offering B2C, how does that happen? Does Xoala now need to become a CFD business? If they go to, they obviously don't go to MetaQuotes because MetaQuotes is a pure B2B.
Yeah.
So then as a consumer, it's one of the two. But then if you go to XNES, let's say, this opens up a whole branch for brokers to offer a whole other list of services that maybe they don't currently. So not only trading, but also, your daily spend. Let me hear your insight there.
It's a very good point. Now, there is a trend of unifying your businesses. Yeah. I cannot say too much at this stage about Xoala. We might see it very soon, offering the full spectrum, from investments to banking to you name it. But there are, other companies doing it. And now there is a trend of companies developing their own technology. How they say it, stop spending money, paying other people for the technology. So they started developing their own technology. And this started, I remember when I started in Forex, we were working with, let's say, Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We only knew 2 or 3 CRMs back then. Nowadays, you have 40, 50 CRM companies. So everyone takes a product, works with that product for some time, understands the product, sees the good in the product, and then they will try and develop their own product. This is how it works. And we can say, I don't want to mention names, but we can look at some very big companies which already merged all their services into one app. Yeah, and very likely, or probably, this is the way Xoala will do it as well. As you mentioned, we want to do everything in one app. We cannot be distracted. Yeah, because, for example, why are multi-currency IBANs in very high demand? Yeah, see this, if you have to receive 10 transfers in 10 different currencies, you will have to literally click and access 10 different accounts. With Xoala and other companies, you can receive 10 currencies, 20 currencies into one single account.
But what is the currency of that account?
For example,
whatever you choose.
It's multi-currency IBAN, yeah. So it can support 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 currencies, let's say.
Okay, so what does it look like practically? Let's say I've got an account with Xoala and it's a multi-currency account. And I got paid my salary in euros. So I see a balance of a salary in euros.
Yeah. Same, it looks exactly the same as you see it in the other app, which you have on your phone and you're using on a daily basis,
right? Where
you have multiple wallets and multiple accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so somebody else has sent me
pounds,
dollars,
or
pounds.
dollars. Yeah.
It isn't exchanged and come into my euro balance.
No.
It on the same exact same
as
IBAN.
Dollars or pounds.
Here's another balance, and then if I want, I can convert one to
Correct.
the other. If for me it's more convenient to look at just one.
Correct.
Balance.
From inside the application, you can convert it. It's going to be zero cost, because it's done inside the application, and happy days.
That is super convenient for businesses, for Forex businesses, because let's speak about a pain point here, right? The other complexities. So I was going to go to clients' funds, right?
You cannot touch them in a Forex company. Those are segregated
You
accounts.
cannot touch clients' funds.
But you can receive multi-currency.
So when you get the currencies and it comes, and you don't need to do the exchange, because a broker that's doing it correctly knows what the equity is for each currency, whatever it is, whatever currencies you are offering in terms of base currency of the trading account. So, and you need to make sure that the client's funds are segregated into those exact matching currencies, and you have the available or more of those funds. But those currently, at least to my knowledge, are different IBANs, different accounts that need to be maintained.
Yeah.
And so in the scenario where, let's say, there's a trader who's got two different trading accounts with the broker, and it's very easy for that trader to shift, let's say, $1,000 into a euro account. So I've taken $1,000 from my USD trading account and I've moved it into my euro account for whatever reason. I have a certain strategy. Strictly speaking, the broker should do the same, because the broker then is exposed on the exchange rate. If they don't take that $1,000 out into the 1,000 euro account to reflect in the client's funds, they're currently exposed on their 1,000. And in this basic example, it's not a big problem. There's not a lot of overhead. But imagine now thousands of customers shifting money back and forth into different accounts. It adds some overhead. And so I guess now thinking about it a bit more, Xoala up to a certain extent adds a convenience. But then afterwards, because, all these different solutions and technologies that exist in the industry, they've made it so, they've made it easy for a trader within the environment, the ecosystem of the broker, to shift money from one to the other. And that's not linked to the actual bank accounts and the client's funds accounts that the broker has.
Well, it should be.
It should. It should be. There's an overhead though, right? Because how they're doing it now, brokers that are, compliant, they're doing it manually. At least to my knowledge. I'm not sure that there's an integration here between the actual banks and the movement of funds that the clients are doing in this environment here.
There is a connection at some point somewhere down the line, but it's super technical. Like, we need to go super deep into it, and I'm not sure the viewers want to listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, for the viewers, it's some might be, the new cool is the geeks, right? That's they might be interested.
But in the same time, we want to simplify life.
100%. But it is also important to know, right? Because these things, a trader, if you've got your money with a broker, the trader needs to know, maybe this is a question that you ask the broker. And if the broker's not doing it, then do it, because there is an exposure there. At the end of the day, these conversations that we have on this podcast, it's mainly to give insight and protect the industry. Right, I might be adding some complexity to many brokers, but it is what it is.
Well, they have their compliance and risk department, and the risk department should make sure you're not exposed as a company. That's why the risk department is there, to manage and mitigate the risk of the company and the exposure on the market.
Right. So, Andrew, let's walk now into your world, your expertise, and that's marketing and branding.
Business development, business growth. You can call
growth.
it, however you want.
Yeah. So, what is your view about what it takes to grow a business? What is most important? You got the chicken egg theory, where marketing to bring in the customers, then you sales. You can't have one without the other. Give us a good definition here, Andrew's perspective on what business growth actually means.
Right. To answer your question, running a business or growing a business is probably one of the hardest things you've ever done as a human being. As someone that had a few businesses, and you can contradict me or agree with me on this one, is one of the hardest moves you're going to make in your life. And I'll explain why. The vision of the generic vision of people that have businesses is that he drives a Mercedes, he comes to the office, drinks coffee in his nice office, and hundreds of thousands of euros are coming in every month. Now that's, do you want to spoil it for the audience, or do you want me to spoil it? That's the dream, guys. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen like that. Sometimes you might be better off having a job, that pays you a decent salary, than trying to run your own business. Yeah, and look at me. I had 3 businesses. They went okay for some time, but then I've decided it's time to park them on the shelf, look for a job, because the income-wise, I was on par basically with what I was doing. There is scalability, but it's conditioned by a few factors. Yeah, so to grow a business, you need a lot of time, money, dedication, a bit of luck, to be honest. Yeah, you could have the best team, all the funding you need. If you're unlucky and just when you're trying to do something, the world changes, it's luck. Yeah, you need a bit of luck. And as I said, it's probably one of the hardest things you've ever done if it's your business. Yeah, it takes a mix between marketing, sales, and most importantly, the higher management, the upper management, sharing the same view, sharing the budgets, sharing the time and the patience and the effort, for everything to go the right way. And it takes time.
Yeah, patience is a big one. And something that I've spoken about here with many of my guests is, it is difficult, to start your own business. Not everybody's cut out for it. You got to be prepared for some hardship. But something that we've said many times, that one failure or 2 failures shouldn't define your ability. It's making sure that your risks are calculated and that a failure is not going to set you back too much. And and those failures are lessons at the end of the day, and sets you up the next time round to you're more informed, you're more prepared. So maybe if you could share, what were the lessons in the 3 that you've currently gone through? What are the lessons that you've learned?
Wow. Okay. This is a tough one. A lot of lessons. And back to what you were saying about failing. Okay. You didn't necessarily fail. You've learned something. You've done something the hard way. Yeah, and most of the times I appreciate more the people that do things the hard way. They fail, let's say 5 times, and the 6th time they succeed, and they can tell a success story, versus the people that inherit 1 or 2 million or 5 million from their dad. Yeah, they build a Trump Tower, they buy, an aviation company, that's not building a business. That's an investment. You had the money to start with, So.
But I can tell you something. So, there are many examples. If you do a search where people who have won hundreds of millions, even, I think, tens of millions in a joker. So not even an inheritance. So joker. So people who the lottery, right? So people who have had 0, nothing, challenging times, didn't really try to progress themselves, and then you get this massive amount of money, and most of the time they just
blow it up,
poof, gone. So I'll say about my view of people who inherit money. I think there is a bigger challenge for those to maintain the money, because you could blow it again.
Yeah, very easy.
Right? Each side, each bucket, group of people, let's say, who manage to get a lot of money, either by building something from scratch, a business from scratch, after many attempts and fail and learn lessons, and you get to a point where you've accumulated some good wealth, or somebody who's inherited it but has able to maintain it. Those are both difficult things to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, it all comes down to education and experience. I mean, if you're educated a bit and let's say you inherited $5 million, right? Regardless of the business your dad or your uncle, had, right? Did you grow up watching them doing that business? Did they did they get you involved as a child? Do you understand the business? Can you master it? Or you just inherited $5 million, you did nothing, all your life, and all of a sudden you want to open a technology company in the financial industry or something. How? Where's the connection? Where's the how? Basically. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Having a lot of money, inheriting money, but I tend to appreciate people that made the money as they, themselves, as they went along. As long as they didn't backstab anyone, because this is again another thing. How did you make that wealth?
Yes.
If you go on the street, or if I ask 100 people on the street about you, what are they going to say?
Yes. So reputation's a big one as well.
That's why I'm not running, now that I turned 40, I'm not running for millions anymore. Like until, let's say, mid-30s, that was the dream. Millions. I wanted to be the Wolf of Wall Street. I wanted to have mansions. I wanted to be, no, I don't want it anymore. I prefer something with a nice view by the sea, something very tiny, because realistically, that's all we need to be happy. We don't need more than one bedroom to be happy.
Right.
We don't need more than a tiny, tiny home to be happy. What we do need is a lot of love, a lot of appreciation. We need people around us, and we need those little things that keep our happiness level. For example, a used motorbike, a used boat, everything. You don't have to get it new. Mm-hmm. This is my dream, at least now after 40. Before 40, it was, let's have a mansion. No. I want my own corner, peace and quiet, with all the gadgets and the gizmos that I can get. But this is it. I want peace of mind. I want happiness. I want things that, funny enough, these terms don't have a role in the financial industry. You don't hear them very often.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal, I think, at the end is, somebody who's chasing a dream and is, after millions or whatever it is, you got to ground yourself and say, what is the reason that I want all of that stuff? And the ultimate reason is for you to be, I think, happy, right? If you're going to be this stressed person, constantly running and not able to actually enjoy. So let's say you manage to get to that successful state where you're making millions, but you're a wreck every day. You're waking up and your cortisol levels are through the roof, and there's this anxiety continuously. What's the use of that, right? Why? Why have that kind of? That's not a happy place.
No. As you're making money in your journey, there is a crucial point that completely wrecks you as a human being. This is how I see it. Like, it's okay to make money. It's okay to be successful. But when you exceeded that point, I call it, let's say, point of common sense. When you have no more than the average person, but you can afford something, like something decent. When you exceed that point, you're not human anymore. You're not, and they have more anxiety than I do because they have big bank accounts. And imagine if they wake up one day, they check it out and it's empty. Yeah, my bank account is, let's say, decent or tiny or small or whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's going to make a lot of difference, if I wake up one day and I see zero in the bank account. But can I do it again? Yeah. Can I do it again in 1-2 years? Probably. But the amount that the other guy lost, he's going to need 20 years to make it back again.
Right. And there's just a story that you just reminded me. I think it's a very common one, a very old story. I might butcher it a little bit here, but do you know do you know the story about the fisherman and this Wall Street guy who comes and finds the fisherman sitting on a boat and asks him, what are you doing here? Do you know that story?
No, but it's interesting. You mentioned financial markets. There we go.
So there's this fisherman is super happy. He's sitting on his boat, peaceful lake, and he's got his fishing rod in the sea with his bucket with 2-3 fish, which he's going to have dinner with his family at night, and he's just passing his time, and everything's peaceful and beautiful. And this guy comes and finds him in his boat. Wall Street guy, super, ego, that whole thing. Right? He says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm fishing, passing my time. I'm enjoying life." He goes, so how many fish will you be able to catch today? He goes, I'm pretty good. I'll be able to catch another 3 or 4 fish. I've already got a bucket over here. I'll be able to catch 5 by the end of the day. And he goes, and what are you going to do with that? He goes, I'm going to take it home, set it up on the fire, have a beautiful time with my wife and kids, and enjoy it. He goes, well, you know what you should do? He says, you should take the fish and sell it so that you can get profit, so you can buy a second boat. So the fisherman says, okay, and then when you get the second boat, then you'll be able to catch 20 fish a day, and you'll be able to hire another person, increase your profits a bit more, and move out into deeper waters so you can get more fish, bigger fish. And then you buy your second fleet, 2, 3 boats, and then the fisherman's like, okay, yeah. And then you'll be able to get your headquarters and then start hiring your marketing team, and you start hiring your accountants and your things, and then start creating a business and then increasing your profit month by month, year by year as you start expanding. He goes, okay, and then don't worry, it might be a bit stressful. You're going to need to hire people, whatever, legal and lawyers, and your contracts and whatever, maintenance, boats, whatever. It's going to be stressful, but don't worry, your profits are going to be super, super big. And then eventually you'll be able to list on the stock exchange, set out an IPO and exit and make hundreds of millions. He goes, okay, and then you sit back on your boat, relaxed, and fish and chill and enjoy your life. Because, well, I'm doing that already.
Yeah. Without the stock exchange list.
Why should I go through all of that 10 years of stress where I'm doing already what I want,
We're being taught since childhood, we're being taught that we need to leave a legacy. We need to achieve something. In my country, there is a saying like a man that never planted a tree, built a house, or had a baby. Is like, we are taught that we have to deliver, we have to achieve things. We have milestones which we have to achieve if we want to be somebody, respected by somebody.
Right.
So some of us get it the wrong way. Some of us understand it along the way, like I did. Some of us never understand it.
Right.
You set them and they start running since they're 14, 15, and they will never stop. It's a way of life, basically.
Good. So, Andrew, I think we've spoken about neobanks here. We've spoken about, marketing, branding, sales, lessons of life, the true meaning of all of this. What is it that you're setting out yourself to do? Is it materialistic or, true happiness? At the end of the day, I think, when we get onto these things, we speak about our own experiences. That's an example that people can look at and follow, and kind of go down their life as they best see fit. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of add into this talk that we've had over here today?
Yeah, let's be less materialistic, more humans, more understanding, and have the patience.
Patience is a big one. Yeah.
You need to have the patience. Everything is done. And now I know I might sound like my grandfather or my dad, and I didn't get it at the time. But now I get it. You need a bit of patience with everything, regardless of being CEO, president of the country, cleaning lady, salesman. You need a bit of patience. If you don't have it, the business will not have it with you. If the business doesn't have it, it might not be the correct business for you.
Yeah, here's another thing about patience that, the way I look at it. Oftentimes, we have a plan for our own lives and things don't pan out the way you expect. If you're patient, something better might come along. If you don't try and force something to happen now, I want this now, right now, give this to me now. I can't wait. If you're more chilled and relaxed, maybe something better comes up,
In theory, yes. Like, this kept me, and probably this line keeps all of us from losing our minds when things go bad for us.
Yes.
You know, everything happens for a reason. I'm a big fan of this, and I felt it on my own a million times. Everything happens for a reason. Something that might seem like a short-term loss, it could actually be a long-term gain. Yeah, and if I would have got involved in some businesses, let's say, or some opportunities that I had at some point, my career, my path wouldn't be the one that's today. So even though I was super upset at the point that, okay, it's not happening, I want to force it, I want to push it. Why me? Why me? You know, it's always why me? What have I done wrong? It's not you. It's a million other people in worse situation than you.
Of course.
You know, but everything happens for a reason. Ideally, we should be zen. We should be, you know, expecting when things start going down, you just stay zen and you expect it to end, and then you start building up. It's hard. We're humans. It hurts. You have emotions involved. You have financial losses. Maybe you have, you know, a lot of stuff. But there is no other way.
I can't remember where I saw this. I read it in some book. Maybe I cannot remember, but there was the advice of this book. I can't remember which book it is, where the suggestion is, in ways, how you cope with things. Look at your life like a movie. If you're able to look at your life subjectively, not emotion, don't add emotion to it, but look at it as a movie and see how things pan out and say, okay, this is interesting. Okay, this is happening now. It's not such a great time. I'm interested to see what happens later. Look at it as a movie, because when you're sitting and you're watching a movie, there's ups and downs, but it doesn't really hit you at the core emotionally, like it's not your own life, right? If that makes sense. So
I cried at the Titanic, basically. So sometimes,
yeah, but I mean, it's maybe there's a better way to explain it, but this is, just look at your life and observe it and go with the flow. Don't get too kind of stressed about any situation, and also on the flip side, don't get too glorified,
too comfortable, or too
comfortable. With if things are going super well. It's a fine balance, right? Because you do need to feel that when you hit some successes and whatever, it's nice to absorb it, right? Grasp it and feel that, get that great feeling, but then not to the extent where you think, oh, great, I've made it or whatever. But then also on the flip side, when things are not going so, don't let it put you down too much. Just keep going, observe it as a movie, and
it's a lesson.
And and live for the moment, right? Yeah. And enjoy your life as it is. It's just, and I think there are maybe adjustments or tweaks and hacks that you can apply in the daily life, and I think being grateful is a big one. So you wake up and you just say, just thank you for everything I have. I've got my limbs. I've got all four of my limbs. I'm able to think. I can see. I can, just be grateful.
In theory, it's easy. I wasn't very grateful for a big part of my life when I was younger. I've learned this, the hard way. I've learned it as I was getting closer to 40. I started remembering the messages I was getting from my dad or my granddad, which pissed me off at that point, like tremendously. I was, but now I started thinking more like of a grown up, like an adult, like an old man, let's say, and I start appreciating things differently. But it's hard not to be affected, by what happens in your life. They're life lessons. You have to treat them as life lessons and learn from them. Don't do the mistake again. 99% of us, we will do the same mistake again. I'm one of them. I do it the second or maybe even the third time. But when I say enough, it's enough. It's enough. I learn.
Yeah.
And again, there's another saying. We know out front if something's going to go wrong. If a business is going to go sour, if a relationship is going to go sour. We know it deep inside from the very beginning. We just accept accept it and go with it, hoping for that 0.1% that will turn it in our favor. And of course, it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Great. So, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you on here. I think we've been speaking here for more than an hour already. Let people know where to find you, maybe what the future plans of Xoala is, if the B2C side's ready, because there were a few things that you mentioned which are in the pipeline. Let's do some concluding comments over here, and thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. As I said, it's a pleasure to be here. And usually I'm on your seat, asking the questions. So I feel now I understand what my guests were feeling when I was inviting them for interviews and talks. Right. Now, conclusion. The world is evolving. We need to be open-minded. We need to still understand that the time when we're going to see flying cars is not really around the corner. And by the time, Bitcoin will be the only currency around the world, a lot of things need to change. So we still need to be on top of what we have today, be grateful, as you said, for what we have today, for this banking sector, which is, as it is, for these losses that we all take time to time in the financial markets, for everything that goes bad in our life, we have to be grateful for. And look for the best. Stay open for the future, stay open to innovation, but don't forget, we live in present times. Yeah, let's not pretend we live 100 years from now, because it's going to be very bad for us.
100%. Good. Thank you, Andrew, for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Dinos. I'll see you soon.
Cool.